Story 1. My relative Nate serves in the Coast Guard, exceeding 10 years. He isn't the sort to fabricate or invent. He ranks among the most direct individuals I know. Genuinely stable, not given to superstition, uninterested in horror, a pragmatic man fond of vessels and discipline. He recounted this narrative to me somewhat, requested repetition multiple instances due to its disturbing nature. Each iteration, the specifics remained unaltered. This occurred during 2017 when assigned to a lighthouse off Maine's coastline for a dual-month upkeep cycle. The location was named Matinus Rock, exceptionally remote, accessible solely by vessel or it's merely a rugged, stony islet featuring a solitary lighthouse and one supplementary structure housing fuel and maintenance apparatus. No electrical network, no piping, and minimal cellular reception. The lighthouse itself functions automatically yet necessitates periodic manual attention. Explaining the Coast Guard's annual dispatch. Typically, it's an individual task, but peculiar electrical malfunctions occurred the prior year. Consequently, this excursion included 2 personnel, Nate and another named Russell. Initial days proved uneventful, windy, monotonous, and recurrent. Daylight hours involved examining beacon mechanics, testing emergency power sources, replenishing the diesel generator, and removing salt corrosion strata from the metallic interior. Nights comprised reading, consuming basic meals, and passing moments with card games. Seclusion was anticipated, no warning sign. Subsequently, the 4th night, Nate awakened approximately 2:00 a.m., sensing peculiarity. Not ill, not aching, simply an atmospheric anomaly. The air felt denser than normal, reminiscent of a chamber preceding a tempest, yet outdoors remained cloudless and noiseless. He sat upright, scanning. Darkness prevailed. Then he perceived it. The beacon's rotation had ceased. The lighthouse should emit a sweeping luminous ray every few moments. Even during upkeep, light failure constituted a critical event. He rose, roused Russell, and both ascended the constricted spiral staircase. Reaching the summit, they discovered the gears rotating the beacon remained operational, yet the actual luminescence itself wasn't pivoting. An obstruction jammed the mechanism. A sizable, somber textile fragment, resembling a blanket or age jacket, wedged profoundly into the gear assembly. The object was saturated, coated in a viscous algal substance, emitting odors of decomposing seaweed and fungus. Both were perplexed. The entrance had been secured. No gale or avians. It defied logic. They extracted the fabric, discarded it externally into the wind, and retired, presuming a bizarre, isolated incident. The subsequent night, identical circumstances, approximately identical timing. Shortly post 2:00, Nate woke observing the beacon immobilized. They ascended and discovered another textile piece obstructing the identical mechanism. Only now, it differed smaller, resembling an antiquated scarf or shawl. It was crimson, unraveled marginally, and drenched in apparent seawater. Minuscule crustaceans adhered, suggesting recent oceanic emergence. They verified entrances, fenostrations, the supply cupboard all secured. Now they pondered deliberate interference, or, worse, an entity infiltrating the lighthouse, intentionally sabotaging the illumination. From that night onward, they barricaded the stairwell with substantial crates. After final upper-level verification, they meticulously secured the beacon chamber and ground-level entrance. But the 7th night introduced something Nate still declines to allude. He described reclining, attempting slumber when Russell's whispering emanated across the chamberette. Not addressing Nate, he murmured toward the chamber corner, uttering peculiar disjointed phrases as if addressing a presence. Nate inclined, inquiring his speech. Russell blinked lethargically, appearing bewildered, denying utterance. Later that night, Nate reawakened, finding Russell seated beside the window, gazing downward at the rocks beneath. Upon inquiry, Russell stated believing he witnessed someone standing below the prior night, marginally discernible at the beacon light's periphery. He described it as observing them before vanishing upon the light's return sweep. Thereafter, circumstances escalated. Russell grew stranger daily, seizing rest, reducing speech, merely window-gazing for durations. Russell merely mumbled about wall noises or vocalizations within the stairwell. The 9th night, both detected stairwell footsteps, not typical wind-induced groaning, but authentic, deliberate, sequential footfalls descending from the beacon chamber overhead. Nate observed Russell stationary at the stair base, petrified, peering upward. Nate inquired if he ascended. Russell responded negatively, then queried if Nate had. Neither had stirred. They stood listening until the footfalls ceased. The ensuing silence proved more dreadful. That night, they shoved a cabinet before the sleeping chamber entrance and rested with blades beneath their pillows. The 11th night, beacon failure reawakened them. This instance, attaining the lighthouse summit, the beacon chamber entrance gaped not merely unsecured or ajar, but fully expanded as if forced. Wind howled inward. Inside, the beacon wasn't merely halted, it was deliberately vandalized. The bulb lay unscrewed, positioned vertically. That apparatus isn't. Manual removal demands exertion, Nate observed, horrified, while Russell persistently muttered about sabotage. Then Nate sensed contact against his dorsal region, something frigid. He pivoted. Emptiness. Russell blanched, persistently indicating the partition, whispering about a hand emerging from the masonry. They fled downstairs, barricading themselves within the sleeping chamber. Nate remained entirely awake. Russell initiated rocking corner-bound, whispering to an absent entity. Morning. Nate employed the emergency satellite telephone, demanding premature extraction citing significant mechanical failure. The vessel arrived afternoon, but the eeriest element emerged. The crew inquired regarding a 2:12 a.m. distress transmission. Nate never initiated. He hadn't touched the telephone until dawn. The deckhand described receiving a distorted transmission with interference, and a voice referencing presence with them before termination. Russell remained mute the entire return voyage. He resigned from the Coast Guard months subsequently, never disclosing the true events. Nate still performs upkeep periodically but vows eternal avoidance of Matinus Rock. Story 2. This transpired amidst COVID restrictions. It approximated the phase where universal frustration and confinement-induced restlessness peaked. I was solitary then, navigating Tinder, direct messaging individuals, while viewing films and series genuinely. What alternative existed weekday nights during lockdown? I initiated dialogue with a female I'd followed on Instagram for years. Her name was Sophia, alias Soph. We reside in Suffolk County, Long Island, New York, approximately 20 to 30 minutes from the Hamptons and roughly 60 minutes from Montauk. Bored one night, we concurred to socialize. Conveniently, she inhabits about 5 minutes distant. I collected her. We drove toward approximate shuttered park, consuming White Claws there. I instantly perceived her disposition, mildly defiant, yet appealingly so. She endorsed fence-hopping, trespassing, and analogous activities. Rapid mutual rapport formed. Within 60 minutes, she proposed driving to Montauk and traversing the Cliffwalk and circling the lighthouse. Technically, the lighthouse perimeter closed post. I believe it might have been universally shuttered during lockdown, not entirely certain yet. I instantly affirmed agreement. I appreciate such ventures. We finished our beverages and drove extensively eastward to Montauk Point. Arriving, she instructed parking within the lighthouse lot. I hesitated marginally, yet she appeared assured regarding absent security on an arbitrary Tuesday night during off-season lockdown. Observing 0 vehicles, I accepted her assertion. She claimed prior experience. We parked, consumed another White Claw within the lot. I periodically scanned anxiously for security patrols. She advised relaxation. We ultimately proceeded toward the lighthouse. Observing a lighthouse nocturnally so proximally, merely gazing upwards. Fascinating yet faintly unsettling. Indescribably yet somewhat liminal. Consequently, we circumvented slightly, avoiding direct illumination exposure. This marked my inaugural Montauk lighthouse visit. She guided us directly toward the cliffside rearward, featuring rock formations, constituting a pathway termed the Cliffwalk. We navigated solely via flashlights. Perhaps illumination was intended below. Yet that night, primarily darkness prevailed except sparse frontal illumination, and naturally the lighthouse beam itself. Commencing the Cliffwalk, mindful of footing, Soph, now trailing, uttered my designation. I rotated. She directed her illumination rearward, revealing an individual trailing upon the rocks. Dual illumination clarified him. Coat-clad, hooded, apparently African-American, yet age and details I vocalized inquiry regarding employment. He remained silent and immobile. I appended, "We're departing. Apologies." Primarily apprehensive regarding security personnel and repercussions. Yet the individual addressed us. "Y'all desire cocaine purchase?" Discovering non-security intensified unease. Why pursued this eerie individual? "Why present?" I responded, "Negative." "We're satisfactory." Motioning Soph progression. I permitted her precedence. Proceeding, The individual initiated movement concurrently, matching our velocity sans further dialogue, periodically glancing rearward with illumination. He maintained identical separation bizarre. The remainder proved intensely stressful. Attaining the Cliffwalk terminus, we hastened turfward toward the automobile. The prior individual persisted pursuit, synchronizing velocity. We perceived him call something resembling, obviously seeking conflict, avoiding provocation. I ignored, instructing Soph identically. We advanced parallel swiftly toward the automobile. Then we noticed two additional individuals approaching, avoiding sprinting, yet one newcomer vocalized something inaudible. We attained the automobile, hurried internally, and Soph and I exclaimed, discovering the trio immediately adjacent. I secured the automobile, instantaneously seconds preceding dual attempts at differing entrances. I engaged reverse. They impacted the automobile during reversal, yet abstained pursuit once mobile. Returning, our pulses raced. Post-adrenaline. Silence prevailed. We concluded the night post. We subsequently socialized frequently and remained connected. Yet that night disquiets me excessively proximate to catastrophe. Companions suspect gang affiliation. Regardless, nocturnal return holds zero appeal. Story 3. My designation is Gregory. This is an anecdote recounted repeatedly by my former companion Ian. Transpiring long prior, I solicited a comprehensive written rendition recently. Permission granted for online dissemination due to persistent unease. Ian exemplified. He operated in marine salvage and coastal construction. Essentially, when aquatic infrastructure faltered, Ian was summoned for restoration. Beyond contractor, he was a diver, vessel technician, even governmental remote inspector. He'd witnessed virtually everything. Consequently, hearing this narrative, I harbored zero skepticism. He described occurrence during hired by a miner of Washington State County for structural assessment of an antiquated decommissioned lighthouse. The county inherited the asset years prior. Indecisive. Developers advocated demolition. Historians championed preservation. Funding was universally undesired. Ian's assignment was elementary. Solitary travel. Internal-external evaluation. Determine restoration feasibility. Initial arrival. Tranquil. Chilly. Overcast. Yet serene. Atmosphere contained the standard saline metallic decomposition, amalgam of prolonged desertion. The lighthouse measured approximately 50 feet. Early 1900s construction, featuring the archetypal internal spiral staircase ascending toward the beacon chamber. That optical lens remained inoperative for decades, yet the edifice appeared substantial. Ian executed routine safety verifications. Support girders, step integrity, fenestration fixtures, lower-level floorboards, warped yet traversable. The secondary tier was an empty storage space accepting corroded metallic cupboards. The inaugural night proved uneventful, excessively silent. Ian remarked. Mundane noise absence becomes conspicuous. No avians, no insects, not even wave rock percussion, merely wind. Softly. The subsequent day, dense fog. Ian awakened to an exterior void. Visibility capped at 5 feet. He described unparalleled density resembling a tangible barrier. Yet he dismissed its regional fog prevalence. He dedicated daylight documenting upper stairwell annotations. Then he perceived the initial anomaly. Midway toward the beacon chamber, a maintenance alcove embedded within the partition. Day 1. Corrosion immobilized it. Presently, it stood marginally ajar, merely an inch, yet demonstrably displaced. He hypothesized atmospheric moisture-induced shifting, yet discomfort arose. The alcove interior was widening. The aperture revealed a rear corner object. A timber crate, lunchbox dimensioned, enveloped in humid moss, resembling recent submersion. He abstained opening it, merely reclosed the aperture, noting documentation. That night, something aroused him, not acoustical, rather acoustical cessation. Subsequently, metallic stair footsteps overhead. Initially, presuming fauna, he discerned ascent direction whatever inhabited the tower climbed. He illuminated, scrutinizing the stairwell ingress. Nothing materialized. The sound ceased. Stillness resumed. The succeeding day, he scoured the entirety chambers, alcoves, even the rooftop. Nothing, no creatures. Solely that crate, presently positioned exterior the alcove, midway into the stairwell. He prolongedly observed it, deliberating. Ultimately, he lifted it unexpectedly massy, timber bloated by dampness, lid nailed shut, minimizing manipulation. He positioned its stair base, exiting for atmosphere. Then he noticed additional evidence. Bare footprints encircling the lighthouse foundation. Unshot damp impressions originating northernly, proceeding toward the precipice, terminating abruptly. No return trajectory, merely 10 to 12 impressions concluding at an oceanic plummet. He extensively contemplated rationalization, yet solely his return transport was scheduled, delayed another day. He contemplated communicator extraction summons, yet fog density obstructed navigation. He re-entered, secured every ingress, obstructed the stairwell with an iron conduit, and attempted repose. That night deteriorated. Approximately 1:30 a.m., the upper beacon chamber entrance violently slammed, force dislodging ceiling sediment. Then, not the primary entrance or fenestration, the partition itself, as if knuckles wrapped plaster-concealed brickwork. Ian immobilized until cessation. Dawn re-inspection. The crate vanished. The alcove aperture fully expanded. Isolation concluded. Ian employed the communicator, demanding urgent extraction, citing medical justification despite persistent fog. They pledged endeavor within hours. He assembled belongings, awaited the landing projection. The fog persisted, intensifying. He lingered nearly 7 hours. Vision severely restricted. Sunset approached. Atmosphere chilled. He detected gravel displacement near the lighthouse foundation. Rotating revealed nothing, or fog-obscured presence. He sprinted precipice adjacent, remaining until distant vessel resonance. Extraction occurred post-dusk. The assisting deckhand inquired his ghost encounter appearance. Ian declared the lighthouse perilous, warranting sealing. He filed a concise office report. Structural compromise. Unfit for access, emitting footsteps in crate. He confided contemplating genuine psychological deterioration during isolation. This approximated Eon's written conclusion. Ian forever avoided that lighthouse. He finalized pending ventures that Anam gradually withdrawing from field. Within 12 months, he ceased contract acceptance, citing terrestrial preference. When questioned regarding lighthouse causality, he merely shrugged, declaring sufficient oceanic exposure. I pressed singularly regarding genuine island events. He ocularly fixated, uttering something permanently resonant. Certain locales warrant abandonment. They necessitate temporality and quietude. That sufficed. I later investigated the lighthouse. Minimal information emerged. His annotated coordinates indicate no documented structure. County archives reference a decommissioned coastal tower, yet nameless, resembling non-existent. This unsettles me supremely, not Eon's testimony, but universal silence. I genuinely question whether desiring Eon's insular psychological episode is preferable.